Welcome to the Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Keren Eldad. Settle in. We're about to make you feel really good. Welcome back to the Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Keren Eldad, and we are back with another episode in the Coaching Masters series. The intention of this entire series is to expose you to truly masterful teaching, to the best teaching in the world. And today I am beyond privileged and honored to introduce you to the greatest of them all, one of my favorite teachers, Nayaswami Asha. It is such a privilege to have you in the studio with us today.
I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm always very happy to meet someone whose heart is open like yours.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm trying not to cry. Your life and work is embodied mastery in the highest sense. I've been following you for years. And the reason I especially love you is because you speak with such calm and such conviction about very deep ideas. It's my hope today that we get to know how you came to this work, because there's very little about that, by the way, except for a one-day epiphany moment in Stanford. And then how you built your teaching and now what your mission is. And hopefully we can also find some time to impart some wisdom to the world in these particularly unusual times. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds great to me.
Well, I'm truly honored to have you here. Let's begin at the beginning. So one of the things I was unable to find, and I have truly been an Asha junkie for a very long time. I comment on every single one of your posts. Look it up. Is what happened before the moment when at 22, a fateful day in Stanford, in 1969, right?
Right.
You first hear Swami Kriyananda speak.
Right.
You have no relation to the work up until then.
I never thought about the fact that my own story isn't out there. I just assumed somehow that it is. Okay. I would say that I was a truth seeker from the time I was born. I was born into a very wide-awake, intelligent family, but not a spiritual one. But very socially conscious and justice-oriented.
In California?
I was born in Texas, actually, El Paso.
Welcome home.
Yeah, exactly. I lived here till I was 15. Been in California ever since. So, but I just always, I had a profound desire to be happy. Yeah. And it was paradoxical because I wasn't the least bit unhappy. I was very cheerful and I had a very nice life. But I felt like the purpose of life was to understand on a much deeper level what causes suffering and what brings happiness. I mean, of course, as a small child, I didn't have it clear.
Yeah, you can't put the words to
No, but it was always there. And I was very confused because nobody around me ever talked about it. They talked about, education and money and positive things, but never, to my mind, the fundamentals. But when I look back on it now, I was born a yogi, in essence. And because when I was 18, I fell in with a group of friends, and they were very interested in spiritual matters. And someone handed me a book by Swami Vivekananda, the foremost disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And all I remember is just opening the book. And just as soon as I opened it, it's like, this is it. I recognized it. I didn't recognize it mindlessly because I have a very strong inner need to have it satisfy me. But I got that we are expressions of divinity and the purpose of our lives is to expand our consciousness to infinity. And so I spent about 3 years, 3.5, 4 years, trying to figure out what to do with that information.
Yeah.
Because I was still, by that point, I'd gone to a year of college, Stanford as it happened, and nobody there knew anything that I wanted to know. They knew a lot of stuff, but none of it was what I wanted to know. And I did not see joy. I did not feel wisdom. I felt knowledge, but not wisdom.
Oh, that's what Ram Dass said, too.
Yeah. And I saw lots of people who were living their lives fine from everybody else's point of view, but nobody I wanted to be. So I started, there was a metaphysical bookstore near where I lived. I basically went to the category called Saints and Masters. I basically read from left to right, just looking for how do you live. But I was raised in a Jewish family, so I couldn't go to a Catholic convent. I couldn't be a Protestant missionary out in the jungle. Yeah. I was too cowardly to go to India. But I really did not want to go sit in a cave somewhere. It didn't make any sense to me. So I was primed that when Swami Kriyananda walked into the room, he personified the consciousness that I knew was possible, but I had never seen. And why I recognized him, I don't know, except past lives. But it was inside me, it said, he has what I want.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed. Somebody had what I wanted. And he was starting a community. He had a retreat. So I could make a life out of it. And the fact that there was a retreat meant that I could help people with what I learned. And it was a match made in heaven. That's the only way I can say about it. I never looked back.
I truly love that you put it in this way. It's as Rumi says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And so it's almost like you manifested this exact moment at which you were ready to hear and he was ready to deliver. And you could recognize in that moment, this is my teacher. I have to tell you, I found this experience to be something that's really resonating, not only with me when I found my first teacher and many teachers after, but also for many people who end up with me. It's like they always say, I don't know how that happened. And in that moment, I'm like, you were ready for that moment. You were asking for that moment for quite some time. And at some point, I just walked in the room with a bunch of joy and you went, that's it.
That's it, exactly. And see, we think it's a material universe, but it isn't. It's an energy universe. And the material comes after the energy magnetism. So it's not a surprise. It's not random. It's not luck. It's that you've been generating energy for a long time, which creates a magnetic field, which just pulls you to your affinity, to exactly where you belong.
To exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right.
In fact, even this moment, it's funny because I had no idea I was ever going to meet you.
Really?
And then at one point, I just decided to open the Instagram app and look at your profile, as usual. And it said you were coming to Austin.
Right.
And let me tell you, I bombarded whoever was on the other side. But is there any way I could speak with her?
Well, as soon as you wrote, it was too good. I mean, it was too clear.
It was kismet.
Yeah, and we walked here from where we happened to be staying.
Is that right?
Yes, really.
How lucky.
Yeah.
That's incredible because this is not my usual studio.
Is that so?
Isn't that amazing?
Well, yes and no, amazing.
I know. But now that you say it's an energetic universe, and I really do understand that after many years. By the way, I was allergic to the metaphysical and allergic to the spiritual.
Really?
I too was raised in a Jewish family, super institutionalist, very, very by the book, do things a certain way.
Right.
I related very much to when Ram Dass said, at some point you just have to start understanding that everything around you is knowledge and what you're really looking for is wisdom.
Right, precisely.
Which is exactly what you said. Right. How lucky you are to have had that epiphany at 18. That's extraordinary.
Oh, I
had to wait 20 more years.
By the time I met Swami, I was considering having a nervous breakdown, but I thought it was impractical. I mean, I just thought if I have to spend one more day just getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home, spending time with my friends, going to bed, doing it again, I will lose my mind. I actually stood at the window of this apartment I was living in San Francisco and just considered having a complete nervous breakdown because of the meaninglessness of life.
Yeah. Even
Even though I already had the metaphysics in front of me, but I couldn't actualize it. I could just think about it.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, if I have a nervous breakdown, they'll call the medics and they'll come and get me and they'll take me to the hospital and I'll have therapy and maybe I'll have some drugs and this and this. And then pretty soon I'll be out and then I'll be standing at this window wondering what to do with my life. I thought I can't waste all that time. So I held on and then God changed the plan.
It sounds to me like you had a conscious breakdown. I did. I was suicidal.
You were much farther.
And I remember in the moment just going, all right, let's just play this out.
Right.
And the playing of it out just didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So I rolled back the dog and then I decided, okay, we're going to just do this a different way. We're going to have to go deep into the inner life teaching because I can't do this anymore.
Well, I can't do this myself is really what you have.
And I can't do this myself. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, I have the impression you were like me. I was very school smart, which is basically the value system of our culture.
Yep.
And I knew that it was never going to bring me what I wanted. So it was very schizophrenic almost in the sense that I received enormous praise for doing something that took no effort.
Yeah.
It was like if you already know how to sing and everybody, you're not learning anything. I was learning nothing. I was just using what I already knew and getting a lot of praise for it for putting out zero effort, which made me feel very foolish. But in order for one to really break out of incredible conviction that the world holds, that it has the right answer. Generally speaking, you have to suffer a lot.
Yeah.
You just have to reach the point where anything is better than this.
Yeah.
And in my own life, I never did anything dramatic. I looked perfectly fine, but I was not. I was not fine. I was utterly desperate.
Carl Jung said that there is no coming to consciousness without suffering. Eckhart Tolle, of course, famously goes through a tremendous depression. So I always felt in good company, and now I feel in even better company. I truly appreciate your sharing this. I understand that then you understand that this is the consciousness you've been looking for, and you move into the Ananda village. You basically walked up to him and said, "Can I move in?"
No, not quite, because I was entangled. I had some entangling karma. So it took me a little while to sort out my other commitments, a little less than a year, a little more than a year. But during that time, I was absolutely, there was no question that this is where I was going to go.
This is where we're going.
I would have gone the next day, but I had a superconscious dream. And in the superconscious dream, actually Sri Ramakrishna, who was guiding me, in essence, he said, wait, just wait, it'll be okay. So I had to wait. Otherwise, I would have just walked out the door exactly as you say. And just as soon as I put my foot down on the land where I lived for the next 16 years, it was summer and it was very dusty, and I put my sandaled foot down and the dust rose around it. And again, intuition, this place is true. Yeah. This will work. This is going to work for you. Like for the first time in your life, you exhale.
When you arrive there,
yeah, when you
just felt it.
I opened the car door and I put my foot on the ground. And I'm not inclined to be superstitious or sentimental, or I'm not romantic about things. So when things like that happen to me, it's like it catches my attention.
It's funny. I've lived in 17 countries.
Have you really?
My dad's a diplomat, and decided to have a lot of fun with my life. Anyway, I've never really noticed how I felt about a place except in two cases. The first time I landed in Switzerland, I couldn't explain why, but I hated the place.
You hated it.
I truly felt like I was going to break out in hives.
Wow.
And the first time I landed here, of all places, I felt like taking a hike, which is very funny because I'm an indoorsy person who never hikes. I just loved it here.
Isn't that interesting?
Sometimes you just have a strange feeling that the place you've landed at is where you're supposed to be.
I think there's a whole...
It's a recognition too, isn't it?
Well, there's a whole system of astrology about geography. I don't know it, but I know it exists. I think it's past lives myself. I find when I learned about reincarnation when I was 18, which had no context for me to hear about it, I didn't doubt it, but I'm not one who can take other people's word for it. So I just started looking at everything that happened in my life and then the lives around me for a long period of time, and I applied the template of the possibility of previous incarnations onto what I was looking at.
Sure.
And everything started making sense, such as, what happened to me in Switzerland that makes me want to get out of here? Why does the desert or the environment of Austin, either literally this landmass or the vibration of this landmass, or it just like deserts are my home or something like that, whatever it is.
Well, that makes sense for an Israeli.
Yeah, for an Israeli, exactly. That would be exactly right. This is just where I belong.
It's so incredible.
We're actually being compelled by these things all the time, but we don't bring them to a conscious level. When you bring them to a conscious level, well, it's more fun, actually. But
yeah. It's funny because now I can actually almost do this as I go along.
Right.
But before I could only just realize these things afterwards.
Exactly.
And sort of look back and go, no, I was comfortable, I wasn't comfortable.
Right.
There was something there wasn't something there.
Right.
And so in your early days there, what were they like? What did you do?
Oh, the first 10 years.
The 70s.
Of living in that community, it was just heavenly. We were extremely isolated. One of our properties was 6 miles back on an unpaved road. The other was closer, but it was the beginning of what has now become this huge global movement. But nobody was really living. Well, let me phrase that differently. In the U.S., there was a huge back to the land movement, and a lot of people of my ilk, highly educated, privileged families, were just abandoning everything that our poor parents had spent their whole lives expecting of us. And we were out there growing our hair long and living, drinking goat milk and growing organic food. And it was crazy. Where we were with Swami Kriyananda, we had this underlying profound spiritual intention, which was extremely uplifted and very refined. But the enclave that I was in, there was an outer and an inner circle, so to speak. Some of us were very focused on the spiritual dimension and others just on the lifestyle dimension. But we were very poor. Our situation was very primitive. I lived in a little trailer that, I couldn't raise my hand all the way up without hitting the ceiling, and it was just a little wider than my outstretched arms. It was absolutely wonderful. No indoor plumbing, no running water, no electricity, therefore no television, no input from the outside world. We were literally creating a whole new way of life.
Incredible.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can say. We had this huge organic garden, and we ran this retreat. Sort of when you arrived, no matter what your background was, you either went into construction, you went into the garden to grow food, or you went into the kitchen to cook it. That was about all that was going on.
Like a little kibbutz.
Like a little kibbutz, except with different rules, but yes,
Of course.
like a little kibbutz.
So you were in the spiritual circle?
Oh, absolutely. I was there for Swami Kriyananda.
And that's there to study, basically?
Well, to learn to live. We studied, but it wasn't a scholarly at all. Swami Kriyananda gave many, many classes. Very soon I became his secretary, his personal assistant. And so I was always with him. I saw him every day. I worked with him. I answered his letters. Personal assistant wasn't a word that was used, but that's sort of what I became. I learned to cook. I became his hostess. I wasn't the only one. I don't want to make myself too unusual in that. But my entire life was focused on drawing his magnetism, which wasn't personal. It was just, I wanted to attune myself to his consciousness. I wanted to understand how he moved through the world, and then I wanted to learn it, but not learn it from the outside, but understand it sufficiently that it would become my way of living.
Yeah.
And the real exchange between a real teacher and a student of any field, whether it's music or art or money or anything, is not really the contents. It's the magnetism, because this being an energy universe, when you understand how to live in harmony with certain pre-existing principles, eternal principles that are always vibrating, and you learn to attune your consciousness. It's exactly like singing in a choir.
Yeah.
You have to sing your part. So what Swami had was he was magnetically aligned with the power of his own gurus, Paramhansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi. He had been a direct disciple of Yogananda. He was of an age where he was actually with Yogananda in the physical body. And he had done and was continuing to do, because when a master leaves his body, he doesn't leave. He just isn't in his body anymore. But the magnetism is still there if you know how to receive it. So he had aligned himself with Yogananda, and through him I could align myself with Yogananda also, with these universal principles of personal agency, and above all of joy, of just being part of an uplifted potential for my own nature. And by it being in his company, Swami Kriyananda's company, but above all, being determined to receive the same vibrations that he was receiving. And that's basically that's what my whole life has been. But those beginnings...
Almost like a channeling.
It's like a channeling, but it's not, because it's a magnetic receptivity that transforms you.
Yeah.
So you're not really passively being an instrument for someone else's consciousness.
No.
You're receiving the magnetism, and then the realization becomes yours.
Exactly. It's almost an alchemy situation. I love that you mentioned Autobiography of a Yogi. I knew you would, but we're going to link it below, because I believe it to be one of the most important works. And if anyone out there has not read it yet, you should. Mm-hmm. The second thing that I really love is, I think you have identified the way I see the role of the teacher perfectly. It isn't about the content. No. It's truly about vibrating with the mentor, essentially. And living in that magnetism for long enough to sustain your, I guess, next rise.
You become transformed.
Yeah.
You become aligned. We see none of us are really ourselves. We operate through these bodies and we identify with these bodies, but where does our life come from? You know, nobody can just create their life, meaning the life force, the consciousness, the awareness is already there, and it's an expression of an infinite reality. We are bubbles on the infinite sea. We are definitely individual. We have a unique destiny, but we don't exist outside of that greater reality. And people become very confused because they think their power comes from themselves. And you hit this at a certain point or in a certain incarnation, you just realize, I need help. And where does this come from? And that's what the masters bring. That's what they all bring. You know, from Moses to Krishna, they all bring the same message, that we are part of this greater flow and we need to align ourselves with that. We're singing in a choir. We're not social. We're not soloists. You know, we have a voice, but we have to be in harmony with that.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is people are completely losing touch with what that harmony really means. And of course, we see the results.
That kettle of fish aside, which I hope to tackle in a little bit, at what point do you go from student then to teacher?
Well,
and to the leader, really, at the center?
You know, it's a funny thing. I before I came in here, I thought, she's going to ask me a question similar to this. It's a question that I personally have never considered, and I never really thought about it until I started moving in circles where people would say that question to me. How do you see yourself as a spiritual teacher? And I was like, who are we talking about? Because I don't see myself in any of those roles. I was privileged to receive wonderful teachings and understandings from souls who are very attuned to a very high truth. And so my job is to be as attuned as possible and then to pass it on to anybody who cares about it. But I don't give it a name, and I don't feel that it's fruitful for me to, because my entire intention is to transcend the sense of limited individuality and understand myself as I really am, which is just a wave on the ocean of spirit. So if I try to give that wave a name and a title and a role, it's completely contrary to the entire direction of my life, because freedom comes from self-forgetfulness.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's when we feel, if you really think about when are the times when you feel the most uplifted, it's when you're not there.
Yeah.
And when you're just in the flow of energy, when you're dancing, when you're singing, when you're painting, when you're loving your child, it's because you forgot about yourself.
Yeah, and it's also the trickiest thing in the exchange as well. I like to joke with some of my clients who treat me like a guru that they're 3 minutes away from seeing my face in a tortilla. Because it's really ridiculous, and it's just bring everything down to earth. Forget this exchange. It's really just, you asked for the ideas, I'm happy to share the ideas. There's only been one teacher on this series who expressed herself in the same way that you have, Byron Katie.
Yes, she would. Because her
said they asked, I answered.
Well, she understands that joy is self-forgetfulness. See, people get confused. You hear self-realization, you think personal growth, and we accidentally think that means that I make this that I call myself now perfect. And of course, it's very hard to make this perfect, so you get into this terrible anxiety about your imperfections, which leads you down a whole roll of chaos, because the premise is wrong. To perfect this limited self is to forget this limited self and to realize that this limited self is just an illusion, that we are all connected to the infinite and it flows through us. But you can't own the river. You can just enjoy the fact that the river's, you're having as much fun as everybody else.
Exactly right.
Because there it's passing through you.
You can just become part of the flow.
You become part of the flow, and that's where real joy comes from. That is the joy, because as soon as you start worrying about yourself, you're suddenly terribly insecure again.
Exactly. And that's when everything just becomes an exchange. a Machiavellian exchange.
There you have it.
You do speak, however, about the role of the guru. And actually, one of your very recent Instagram posts, you talked about this. What do you think is the role of a spiritual teacher? And can you give any guidance to anyone who is looking for one now? Because I don't know that they'll have a moment like we did where it was like, that's it. Whatever that is, I'll take it.
Well, there is such a thing as a true master. And that true master has so transcended all sense of self that they can claim the role. Let me exactly think. But you see, every true master passes the credit up the line. They just pass it up the line.
I can't imagine anyone saying, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, Swami Kriyananda passes it up to Yogananda. Yogananda passes it up to Babaji. Babaji passes it up to God. Because it's all just one story.
Yeah.
And no individual does anything except open the window and let the sun shine through. But the fact of the matter is, someone who has opened the window and there's more sun shining through, if you would like to understand how to open the window, you need to ask them, how did you open the window? And then you need to listen. But to then impose upon the open window the necessity to claim the power of the sunshine is to misunderstand the whole story.
Yeah.
And yet, I am a disciple, and I have great reverence and great gratitude and a constant relationship with the inspiration I receive from the Master. So it's not easily described, but it's fundamental. And one of the things that I'm really beginning to appreciate is that there is both a misunderstanding and a profound lack of appreciation of the importance of lineage, of having a powerful divine source, rather than just figuring it out for yourself. Because if you figure it out for yourself, basically you've decided, I can go this far and no farther.
That's exactly right.
Right.
You have to have a connection back to the light. I love that you're saying two things. Number one, that there are those who are truly masterful,
Absolutely.
and their knowledge is unquestionably masterful. The second is that they have in some way transcended the ego. So I guess you just named yourself without naming yourself, but that was the message that I received.
I do my best.
I'll pass it up to you.
I do my best. And I was privileged to learn a great deal. And I know that I have a lot to say because of the opportunities I was given, but I'm not making this up.
You know, what I love is that this is a perfect juncture which we can actually ask you questions that are relevant to our lives.
Okay.
So we're in kind of a weird moment right now, humanity-wise.
You bet.
And I'd love to say, are we in a weird moment? But I know that you agree, because I've just watched 2 incredible YouTube videos of yours. Yes, it will get worse. And yes, it will get worse. Part 2. We're going to link both of those below. They're not as amusing as they sound, but they are truly, truly inspiring. And I'd like to begin sort of at the individual level and see if we can work our way around to human consciousness, if that's okay.
Well, Paramhansa Yogananda, Padre Pio, Mother Mary, you have a long list of spiritual oracles who have declared that we are in a very changing time right now, and the change is going to be turbulent. We are shifting from an age that was committed to matter as the primary reality to an age in which energy is the primary reality. And right now it's chaos, because the forms are gone, the energy is raging, but the energy is not yet focused. Yeah. So people are becoming super-powered, egoic individuals, just greedy and self-centered, and not you and me, but the planet.
Oh, I was plenty greedy.
Okay, but the planet is polarizing.
Yeah.
The prognosis is positive in the longer term, because it's a rising age. You can see that everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a great reactive force to that is trying to make the future look like the past. And there's just not a chance that the future is not going to look like the past. Mm-hmm. But they're going to fight hard. And those are the people with actual power, with military, with nuclear weapons, with governments.
And technological power.
Technological power, yeah. Huge amount of power. This side, where the light is growing, is much stronger than these people know, because we're underground, but we're everywhere. I was in 23 countries in the last few years. I didn't live in them, but I went through them. Light is growing everywhere, but it's not yet in charge. So what is happening is the actual expansion of consciousness is not the whole species or the whole planet. The drama is individual. Each individual has to grow to their own understanding until a higher consciousness actually belongs to me and belongs to you, and that I spontaneously and inevitably function from that higher consciousness, because there is no other reality than that. And that is a multi-incarnational process. Reincarnation has to be part of the story, because you just can't get there from one birth to one death.
No.
And everything that happens on the planet, we choose the planet.
Yeah, so we chose this.
We chose this planet because it would provide the environment that we needed in order to learn the next lesson for ourselves. And so someone like myself and like you and probably everyone listening, we're here for two reasons. We're here to serve, to be able to be spokespeople and instruments of this expanding higher awareness, because when a planet is going through this, there's a big opportunity to serve, because it's a new idea and I get to tell it. And I'm also here because the idea of all this turbulence and all this negativity scares the living daylights out of me.
Yeah.
And fear is the opposite of love. So I get to come to a place where I get to serve and I get to be scared. And then I get to face my fear and I get to master it. That's why I'm here.
And I get to higher levels of happiness. So your mission to serve, which is, I think, how you described the mission unfolding as you became closer and closer to the Swami, is now heightened.
Right.
And you said something really, I think, that truly resonated with me in one of these videos, which was, you have to ask yourself, have I already experienced the highest heights of happiness?
That's exactly.
And then you say, well, the fear is actually leading me to higher heights. So not only is the opportunity to serve, my mission, heightened now, but also the opportunity is higher now.
The compulsion to have to find a safe place inside oneself, a real safe place, and a real happiness place, forces us to raise our energy, to expand our sense of the possible, to consider dimensions of reality that we didn't know before, to think about what it is to be a master, what power can come to us through attunement with the master, all of these things, which I was just comfortable on a beach somewhere. I wouldn't necessarily be thinking about this. I'd just be reading novels and
That would be great.
Yeah, that's just all you do. But that's not what our soul wants.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of all of the prophets say about this, the whole purpose is to awaken us to a higher dimension of reality. So if you're already in motion, expanding your consciousness, opening your heart, learning how to love, then even if difficulties come to the planet, it won't have to push you, because you're already running ahead of the wave.
That's right. You said be in a wetsuit with your surfboard and ready to rock. And I tell myself that every time, because I'm really, truly, I think, a very lazy creature by nature. But I truly believe that I asked to serve. The other day I was on a flight back from Mexico, and there was a gentleman who was very, very drunk, and he was accosting the stewardess. No one was helping her. I think everybody was really afraid in these times that there would be violence. And I thought, well, this is very uncomfortable for me. Why is this happening? And then I went, because you came here and you asked for a chance to help. Right. So I got up and I gave the man a nice hug. And I said, do you need me to walk you back to your seat? And walked him back to his seat and relieved that poor young lady of that truly uncomfortable situation. It's better to just be okay with it and get into the water than to not.
That's a very good, simple, practical example. And, you know, the whole fabric of the universe is made inch by inch, moment by moment, by everybody's responses. We create a vibration on the planet. And there's a whole lot of people who are putting out what I think are very dissonant vibrations. But we have much more power than most people know, because the power of consciousness and energy is greater than the power of matter.
That's right.
And also everything manifests eventually into physical form, but it starts with ideas and energy.
You couldn't be more right. I'm thinking about the dissonance, though, on the individual level. I wrote a book called Gilded about how we have become so overly obsessed with the external validation of the self that we've ended up in a really big, shiny cage, but a cage nonetheless. And we have to break out of this. How do you think people end up in that cage? What do you think they're trying to solve?
Well, everybody has individual karma, and you find yourself in a situation. So it's not so much that you ask what's happening externally. You say, what is this activating in me? What qualities are being, what fears, what negative, what positive, what aspirations are being awakened, what hopes are being diminished. So it's entirely, what does it bring out of me? And that's the karma that brought you to that situation. Karma is an unlearned lesson, something I don't yet know about perfect happiness, about what causes suffering and what brings happiness. And everyone, anybody you see on the street, they have a gigantic story.
Yeah.
And that story is being acted out. So as I stand here, what am I supposed to be learning? And it could be any number of things. Just depends on where you started.
So we can ask that question in order to actually get ourselves out of that cage, but we essentially trap ourselves in these cages because the collective problem is we don't really know what happiness is. And we're learning the wrong lessons, or we're trying to solve the equation in the wrong way. And then on a collective level, that's sort of happening collectively?
Oh, yes, because this planet is going toward higher consciousness, but it's a very medium consciousness right now. It's a restless, material, sensual, self-centered, basic vibration. However, saints and masters are born in very low ages. Jesus was born in a terrible time. You know, he was crucified, but that was not special for him. They just crucified anybody they didn't like. I mean, barbarism, we're not there. But we chose this planet.
I'm pretty sure we're at barbarism.
Well, we have a more subtle barbarism because we have more technology now.
Yeah.
But we're still barbarians. But that we chose this planet because we needed to be in a mixed vibration, and we needed to be subject to these collective forces so that we could individually awaken, so that it would get bad enough that we would be motivated to do something else.
Okay, so I shouldn't be freaked out.
No, you shouldn't be freaked out.
Have you ever seen the movie Forrest Gump?
Yes, a long time ago.
Remember Lieutenant Dan in the storm? Lieutenant Dan has railed the entire movie against the circumstances of life that are just not going his way.
Right.
Suddenly he finds himself in a big storm with Forrest. Forrest does the human thing. He does anything to do to keep the ship afloat. But by that time, Lieutenant Dan has surrendered. He's no longer afraid. He goes up to the mast and he starts basically having a fun moment with God. This is sort of it, right? It's to go,
yes,
this is what we came for.
Yes, this is what we came
Let's
for.
write it out.
Let me learn what I'm supposed to learn. Because you see, a negative circumstance could have two choices depending on which way you're off. One choice could be, I just need to be patient endurance. It's not that I need to change my circumstances. I need to patiently endure and just find a way to serve in this context. Or you need to just walk out the door and never go back. It depends on which side of the balance scale you're on. We're all like arrayed around the rim of the wheel. And it's not a linear situation. It's not that's right and this is wrong. We're away from our own center. And we're away from our own center in different ways. Some people are cowardly, some are too angry. Cowardly people need to get angry. Angry people need to calm down. So forward for them is exactly opposite.
Exactly.
So when you look at circumstances, you have to say, what is it activating in me?
Yeah.
And this planet is a very mixed bag, but that's why it pushes us.
Yeah. But we all have to find our opposite direction, or come back to the light.
Come back
from wherever we are.
From wherever you are. Come to the center. And if you're too far east, you go west. If you're too far west, you go east.
You've said that spiritual practice is not about perfection, it's about sincerity.
Yes.
And that's ultimately what will fuel your discipline in the pursuit of the light. It's, all right, sometimes you miss, sometimes you don't get calmer, but sometimes you do hit that target. And the more you do, the closer you are.
Well, the sincerity is, I'm doing this because this is who I am. I'm not doing this because someone told me. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to make a bargain with God. I'm just doing it because this is who I am. This is how I breathe. This is what I know to be true. And that's a very powerful place to come to. That's why sincerity is everything. Because if you're sincere, you will persevere. If you're doing it for any outer reason, when it gets tough, you'll try to find an exit strategy.
I have never heard anything better said. It's the truth, isn't it?
It's the truth.
When people quit, I always say, well, I guess you didn't really want it, did you?
Right, precisely. But they will next lifetime.
There's always another come around. Can I ask you about that?
Sure.
What's the story with reincarnation?
Well, the story with reincarnation is that we are fundamentally energy beings and we put on a body. And the karma is the pattern in our chakras, and that chakra draws us to a particular place where we can begin to refine that energy. And reincarnation is a gift from God, because our ultimate destiny is divine perfection, which is a pretty tall order. And even if we make a little progress from birth to death, people die with countless unresolved issues. So it would be a very cruel creator who just, well, too bad, honey, you missed it. That's the end of it. And the theology that used to be you went to heaven or hell for eternity, just, it's preposterous in the light of modern science. And this is a perceived reality. I mean, a perceived reality by those who have the consciousness to see it. And once you begin to think about it, it's constantly manifesting in our lives. We just don't know what to call it. We call it love at first sight. Mm-hmm. I really just met that person and I loathe them. We call it, I went to Switzerland and I hated Switzerland. I went to Austin and I loved it. But if you think that this lifetime is a chapter in a much longer book, well, of course the heroine hated Switzerland, because back in chapter 3, she had an awful life there.
There was something that happened.
And then it died unresolved. And she never wants to see that country again.
I think we're done.
Yeah, me and Switzerland are finished.
We're over. We're never getting back together. That's so interesting. I really love that idea. Of course, the idea in physics that energy can only change forms. It can never be destroyed. Exactly. And it really is a continuation. But I do hope that there is one point karmically at which we've done it.
But you can see it. We are done. It's a very consistent system when you really start looking at it.
So there are some people who just are like, this is my last go around.
Because they have no more lessons to learn. Yeah. The lesson, again, is very simple. What causes happiness? What brings suffering? And we learn from experience, and we just keep trying it out until we remember, that doesn't work for me. And you just don't want to do it anymore. Think of all the things in your life that you don't want to do because they don't work. That because means chapter 1 or chapter 4. You tried it and it didn't work. What do you know? So what would work?
What is the simplest truth that you know about why we're here then?
To learn to love. Yeah, really love. And love is not always nice. Sometimes love is a fiery stand for truth. We're here to learn to love the truth. Not the dogmatic, not the fundamentalist truth, but the truth meaning, how am I really made? What is reality? I'm made for joy. How do I find that joy? If we did not know that we were made for joy, we wouldn't rebel against suffering.
Yes.
We would just, this is the way things are. But we know that when we're unhappy, something is wrong. Where does that certainty come from? And that's what we're here to understand. We were made for joy. Love is the pathway to joy. Perfect love casts out all fear. So it all comes together in just a beautiful vision of light, really.
Yeah. Well, I can see it. And thank you so much for sharing this. And thank you so much for coming today. This has been a true honor. I'm going to cry again, but only for a second. Don't worry. It'll pass.
Tears are very good.
Yeah, they are. They are.
I'm very happy to have met you as well.
Me too.
What a lovely, divinely arranged meeting.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, I know that you feel that this was divinely arranged for you too, because it was. You're welcome. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Stay coached. Thank you, Asha.